Good afternoon and welcome to Inside Out Radio. I am today's host and producer, Dr. Nicole Cutts, and we come to you every Tuesday at this time from 2 to 3 here on wpfw 89.3 FM Jazz and Justice Radio. And I have a very, very special guest who's just stepped into the studio, Mr. Jerry Paris, who is here to help me get a very important message out to you in the listening area. So without further ado, Jerry.
Yes, and WPFW is in a fund drive. This is our winter fund drive, which is a most critical fund drive as we are approaching the spring, and we have a lot of spring projects that we are trying to launch, but need your support and need your help to do so. So please, if you like what WPFW is doing, give us a call at 202-588-9739 or toll free 800-222-9739 and pledge your support. We are especially looking for sustainers, that is, members who are able to pay regularly, automatically, at your own rate. If we can get you to become a sustainer at just $10 a month, it would help us tremendously, and quite frankly is a great deal in terms of the programming that you can get for just $10 a month. So again, give us a call, 202-588-9739 or toll free 800-222-9739, or if you're listening to us on the web, you can hit the pledge button and pledge there. And also, there are a number of people who are not aware of the station, so you can help us out also by just telling people about 89.3 on the dial. It's your FM station. This is interactive radio found nowhere else in the DMV.
Thank you, Jerry. And again, welcome back to Inside Out. I'm today's host, Dr. Nicole Cutts. And we come to you live every Tuesday here on WPFW from 2 to 3. And on Inside Out, we like to look at everything from pop culture to politics through a more inclusive LGBT lens. I am a part of a collective. I am joined on other weeks by Lady Dane Figueroa Edidi, Maria Leonard Olson, and Angela Peebles. My beat is typically success, mental health, arts, and culture. Today I'm going to deviate a little bit from that, and I'm going to be bringing to you headlines from the news that you might not otherwise hear, or that you might just catch a glimpse of. So I want to shine some light on some of those headlines because, you know, the mission of WPFW is a very important one. It is listener supported. We don't take money from outside entities, which, I mean, in terms of corporate donors, we don't do commercials. So we're free to have an unfiltered voice and be a voice for the community. And that's what LGBT radio is about, Inside Out. We are the only LGBT-focused radio on the FM dial. So I hope that if you enjoy what you hear either on this program or any other program on WPFW, that you pick up the phone and you call 202-588-9739 or toll free 800-222-9739. You can also pledge online at wpfwfm.org. And you can select what show you would like to show your support for. Of course, I'm going to put in a pitch for Inside Out Radio, but I'm not greedy. You can pitch for you can make a pledge for anybody. So, as I mentioned, we try to bring a different, more inclusive voice to radio. So today we're going to be covering some newsworthy items viewed through this lens. Okay, we've examined topics that affect all of us as individuals and society on Inside Out, from such things as the debate on marriage equality to immigration to dating and relationships. We also feature artists, authors, and musicians who might not otherwise be featured in the mainstream media. And our hope, of course, is to inspire and inclusive dialogue that honors and leverages the diversity in all of our communities, not just here in Washington, D.C., but because we're online, anywhere where you can hear our voices. So the first story that I want to bring to you today is one that came to my attention on Facebook, and I was really surprised to find that I had not heard more about it. And it's a very serious story. I hope that we'll be able to have a comment from some of the people involved in this story. But it's about two young women who are facing long-term drug charges in a Kuwaiti prison, where in fact they have now been sentenced to 25 years in prison. Monique Coverson and her partner Larissa Joseph were sentenced last month to 20 to 25 years in a Kuwaiti prison for drug possession, which, according to her supporters and her family, and the way that it looks, is that it's a trumped-up charge. And here's a quote from Monique's mother, Michelle Jackson, who said, "I believe it really has nothing to do with drugs because they had not done anything illegal." She thinks that the homophobia played a big role because Monique and Larissa were openly lesbians. And she said, this is back to Mrs. Jackson, said, "I do believe it's mostly their alternative lifestyle in a religious country that is so against same-sex relationships." We have experienced an expanded freedom in this country over the past few years. The marriage equality, other civil rights that have been hard fought and won in this country. It's very hard for us, perhaps, to conceive of being sentenced to 20 to 25 years in prison for what basically amounts to a government not agreeing to your lifestyle. And this is just one case that I'm going to be talking about today. But, there are people who have suffered much worse. And so I think it's important that we not just look locally, but also globally. So a little bit more on the story. Police raided the women's home last May and confiscated an ounce of a tobacco-like substance. Coverson's sister, Jasmine, wrote this. She has a petition on change.org, and you can look for it, Free Monique and Larissa on change.org, where you can sign the petition. And they're calling for the release of this couple. Now, lab tests had determined that the substance was K2, which is a synthetic form of marijuana that is, in fact, legal in Kuwait. The two were held without charges for 8 months, regardless of the legality of the substance. And then the 1 ounce of legal substance magically turned into 1 pound of marijuana. And on January 12, 2016, that's when this, 1 ounce of K2 suddenly multiplied into that amount. Monique and Larissa were sentenced to 20 to 25 years in prison. And this is according to that petition that is on change.org. And there's a couple other petitions as well, but that's a good place to start. And also, if you are on Facebook, which a lot of us are on social media, this is one of the good things about social media, is that it is a way to get the word out there. They have a page. It says Free Monique and Larissa on Facebook, so you can go there and get updates and also sign the petition. And there's also a GoFundMe petition there as well. Now, according to Mrs. Jackson, Monique's mother, she told her that they had planted this on us. "We didn't have anything like that," Jackson told Detroit TV station WDIV. Coverson, a Detroit native, is a U.S. Army veteran. After she finished a tour of duty in Kuwait, she remained in the nation as a military contractor, then took a job in the music industry. Just so we have a fuller picture, male same-sex relationships are illegal in Kuwait, but the nation's laws make no mention of relationships between women. Any type of same-sex relationship is generally frowned upon in the nation, though, as is any degree of gender nonconformity. In 2013, Kuwaiti officials claimed they had a test to detect whether people trying to enter the country were gay or gender nonconforming, and that anyone who tested positive would not qualify for residency in the nation. There also have been various police crackdowns on LGBT residents with mass arrests, rape, and torture. So, that is the situation for LGBT folks in Kuwait. And it appears that Monique and Larissa have gotten caught up in this anti-LGBT lifestyle fervor in Kuwait, and therefore might be forfeiting their freedom. There are two young women who are now being held in this Kuwaiti prison. I also want to open the phone lines for anybody who would like to call in and comment or join the discussion. The phone number to do that is 202-588-0893. That's 202-588-0893. You can call in and give your questions or comments on the air. And as long as you're dialing, you might want to go ahead and dial 202-588-9739 and make a pledge for WPFW. A little bit more on this story before I move on to my next headline. This is actually from the Griot. Michelle says a test of the substance proved that it was not an illegal substance, as we had mentioned before, and a lawyer told her that the women would be out in 30, 60, and 90 days, but that never happened. I've been looking at this story on Facebook, and I've seen, the progress of what's going on. The two have tried to meet with a lawyer. They were not able to. They've now met with a lawyer. But the bottom line is that they're not getting heard. That Mrs. Jackson and Monique's sister are trying very hard to get the word out there, and that's why I wanted to pick up this story today, because a lot of people are not aware of their story. So I do want you to go and check that out. There are a lot of things that are going on that, unless the media puts it right in our face, the mainstream media, a lot of times we don't even know about it. And even when they do, I know I'm guilty of this. Sometimes I have a very short attention span. One week we're all up in arms about something, and then the next week we can't even remember what it is. And I think that's mainly because we're inundated with so much chatter out there. But definitely this is news that I think is worth knowing about and doing something about. It's one thing for us to sit and look at Facebook or other sources of news and complain and kvetch with our friends, and it's another to actually do something. And there is something you can do in this case, which is simply to sign a petition. It's a very easy thing to do, to go on change.org and look for the free Monique and Larissa petition and add your signature to it. They only need a few more signatures to get to their target, which right now I can't recall what it is, but they have gotten a lot of signatures, but they need a couple more hundred to get there. So I hope that we can help them do that with this. One last thing I want to share with you from Monique's mother, Michelle, who says that the past couple of months have been extremely tough on her. She says it takes everything out of her, but her faith and the thought of her daughter's situation helps her to keep going. I know that she needs me to be strong because I'm her only hope right now, Jackson said. I'm her only hope. If it's my last breath, I'm bringing my child home one way or another. And to me, that's really heartbreaking. And it speaks to the power of the love that this mother has for her child, Mrs. Jackson has for her child. And I think a lot of us can identify with that. I can't really imagine what it would feel like to have my child imprisoned in a foreign land or to be imprisoned, but I know that with our freedom and with our voice, we can do something to bring attention to this. So I'm imploring you one more time to please do that. I'm hoping that if Mrs. Jackson is out there, if she's tuned in online or if she's listening on the radio, that she will pick up the phone and give us a call, because I'd love to have her commentary on this. The phone number, Mrs. Jackson, if you are tuned in, is 202-588-0893. And I also want to extend that invitation again to anyone in the listening area to call in, pick up the phone, call in to speak to me and give us your comment or your question on any of the things that we'll be discussing today on Inside Out. The next news item that I want to bring to you is something that's actually happening today and something that WPFW, the great folks here, have made me aware of, and they're asking that we get the word out there. And I think it's very important. There's a rally for police accountability in Maryland today. It's unlucky. I think that it's raining because that might cut down on the folks that are out there. But if you're not already out there and if you have interest in being out there, today, February 23rd, the Maryland House of Representatives Judiciary Committee is having a hearing on several bills aimed at police reform and accountability. The bills cover everything from overhauling the law enforcement officers' Bill of Rights to SWAT teams and making sure the public has access to body camera footage. So if you can, please join the rally that is going on today. It started at 11 o'clock this morning. It's going to be going into the evening at around 9 o'clock in Annapolis. And if you can't make it, please help spread the word. Maybe you have friends or family that are in Annapolis and would like to use their voice and their feet and their bodies for a good cause. So the rally is going on at Lawyers Mall, and the hearings start at 1 p.m., which means they started a little bit over an hour ago, which will likely go into the night, and you can come for the whole day or for part of the day. You can also find information about this on Facebook at Rally for Police Accountability in Maryland. That name again of their Facebook page is Rally for Police Accountability in Maryland, and you can get all of the information there on Facebook. If you don't have access to Facebook, you can call in to WPFW and we can give you that information off air. If you are a social media person, if you use social media and you're familiar with the use of hashtags, the hashtags, if you are there, if you're listening, if you want to get involved, if you just want to spread the word, the hashtags that you could use are hashtag MDPolitics, hashtag Black Laws Matter, or hashtag MCJPA, and the last hashtag is hashtag MD Police Reform. So that's going on today until about 9 o'clock this evening. If you want more information, please visit their Facebook page, Rally for Police Accountability in Maryland. So I'm going on with the headlines. Most of you in the listening area, I'm sure by now, are aware of the death of former Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia. And so that's not exactly breaking news, as he died on February 12th. But the reason why I want to bring that story up in the headlines today is because Antonin Scalia has a special significance to LGBT folks and their supporters. Unfortunately, the significance is as a staunch opponent of LGBT rights. Those are not the only rights, civil rights, that he was against, and there's plenty of coverage on that out there. But I wanted to focus more specifically on his anti-LGBT views, just, to bring some light to that situation, because it's an important event in our history that he was there, that he's passed, and of course the situation that we find ourselves in terms of nominating a new Supreme Court justice. Antonin Scalia was nominated by Ronald Reagan in 1986. He served on the bench of the High Court, the Supreme Court, from September 1986 until his death just a few days ago on February 12th, which took place at a ranch in Texas where Mr. Scalia had gone to do some quail shooting. I don't necessarily have an opinion on the slaughter of quails right now. This is a little bit more important to focus on his civil rights and his judicial record. But those are the facts as they stand. That's where he was. So according to the advocates Trudy Ring, Scalia was arguably the most conservative voice on the High Court and was a reliable opponent of LGBT equality. In his dissent in Obergefell versus Hodges, last June's marriage equality decision, his snarky advice was to ask the nearest hippie if marriage affords freedom of intimacy. He also asked whoever thought that intimacy and spirituality, whatever that means, were freedoms. And if intimacy is, one would think freedom of intimacy is abridged rather than expanded by marriage. I guess that's a really convoluted way of saying that you lose your freedom of intimacy through marriage. Snarky comments all around. I'm looking at Mike in the engineering booth who's laughing. Maybe at my use of the word snarky, but I think that that's pretty much the only way to describe those comments. So I want to thank Trudy Ring from The Advocate for bringing that to our attention. In his dissent in Romer versus Evans, the 1996 decision overturning Colorado's Amendment 2, which would have prevented any governmental unit within the state from enacting or enforcing gay, inclusive anti-discrimination laws, he wrote, "The court has mistaken a Kulturkampf for a fit of spite. And the constitutional amendment before us here is not the manifestation of a bare desire to harm homosexuals, but is rather a modest attempt by seemingly tolerant Coloradans to preserve traditional sexual mores against the efforts of a politically powerful minority to revise those mores through the use of laws." Thank you again, Chief Justice Scalia. In Lawrence versus Texas, the 2003 ruling overturning anti-sodomy laws, Scalia's dissent asserted that his fellow justices had largely signed on to the so-called homosexual agenda, by which I mean the agenda promoted by some homosexual activists directed at eliminating the moral opprobrium that has traditionally attached to homosexual conduct. The homosexual agenda. I missed last week's meeting, but I'm sure I'll get the next agenda in the minutes. He continued, "Many Americans do not want persons who openly engage in homosexual conduct as partners in their businesses, as scoutmasters for their children, as teachers in their children's schools, or as boarders in their home. They view this as protecting themselves and their families from a lifestyle that they believe to be immoral and destructive." Well, that is true. It reminds me also of when it was legal to discriminate against African Americans on very similar grounds. People were not comfortable. They did not want African American teachers teaching their children. They did not want African American scoutmasters. They did not want African American doctors. So the fact that many Americans don't want certain people to be around them or engaged in society, I guess Justice Scalia felt that should be supported. And in his 2013 dissent in Windsor versus the United States of America, which invalidated the main section of the Defense of Marriage Act, or DOMA, he called the majority opinion legalistic argle-bargle. Scalia often expressed anti-gay views outside the court as well. Speaking to first-year law students at Georgetown University last fall, he said that the court could recognize constitutional protections for racial and religious minorities, but beyond that, it did not have the power to decide who is a minority deserving of legal protection. If the court believes LGBT people merit protection, he said, it could just as well extend that to child molesters. So Antonin Scalia was not usually shy, obviously, on sharing his very strong opinions. And that is, of course, a very offensive comparison, comparing folks who are LGBT with being child molesters. But unfortunately, it's an all too common comparison. It's just a little surprising that it would come from somebody on the high court who's supposedly very educated. I'm going to take a break right here to ask you to go ahead and call if you have an opinion on anything that I'm sharing, or to have a question or a comment for us here at Inside Out Radio. And I'm also going to take this moment to pause because I have returning to the studio our very special guest, Jerry. Jerry, you're the general manager, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
See, Jerry's my boss, so please behave while Jerry's here in the studio. Jerry Paris has come in to have a word with you. And so, Jerry, what would you like to say?
Well, WPFW is in its winter drive. We liken this drive to spring planting, like we're putting buds in the ground. And you might ask, why is spring called spring? Well, we all know that things spring up, and WPFW hopes to be springing up this spring also, but we need your help to get there. So, if you like what we're doing, and of course this is unique programming that you're not going to get elsewhere, if you like it and like for it to continue, please give us a call and pledge your support. Give us a call at 202-520-5255. 588-9739 or toll free at 800-222-9739 and on the web at wpfwfm.org. This is unique radio. This is interactive radio. You get to call in. We give voice to the voiceless. We get information from you. WPFW has actually broken news stories here from you, the listeners, that have fed back information to us. So that we can continue to do this. We do need your support, and we are especially looking for sustainers. A sustainer is somebody that sets up an automatic account that pays to WPFW on a monthly basis, and any amount will do. You can send in $10, $20, $30, whatever fits your budget, and you are able to support the station on a continuing basis. So again, 202-588-9739 or toll free 800-222-9739.
Thank you, Jerry. And Jerry has convinced me with his very smooth and dulcet tones to become a sustainer. Yeah. You know, even though I'm here and I host and I produce and I make donations, I'm ready to become a sustainer, well, Jerry, because I believe in the station. Of course, I believe in the station. I'm sitting here, but yeah, it's something about, he's very hypnotic. I just want you to know, I hope you've fallen under his spell as well.
Now I'm in trouble.
You're not in trouble, Jerry. You're doing a good job. Thank you.
But the audience needs to know there's a lot of recycling that actually goes on here. Most of our staff, including myself, have pledged, and we support the station also because we believe in what we're doing. We think we're doing the right thing, and some of the things that we've done here have gone national and international. So pledge your support and stay tuned. Things are coming, and if you're around to listen to us in the spring, you can take pride in saying, I helped.
Thank you. Thank you. So we are back to Inside Out Radio, and I'm your host, Dr. Nicole Cutts, and I believe that we have a caller on the line. Is Mrs. Jackson on the line?
Yes, Ms. Jackson's on the line.
Hi, Ms. Jackson. Thank you so much for calling in today.
Oh, no problem at all. Thanks for having me.
So, Mrs. Jackson is the mother of Monique Coverson. Am I pronouncing her last name correctly?
That is correct.
Who I talked about in the top of the hour, our lead story about Monique and Larissa, who have been jailed in Kuwait. And I've read the story, but I really think it's important that we hear from Monique's mother, her perspective, and I want to give her this chance to get her story out there because not enough people know about this story. So, Mrs. Jackson, what is it that you want people to know?
Well, what I want people to know is that, my daughter is currently serving time in a Kuwaiti prison. She was sentenced to 25 years in prison, and her partner, Larissa, was sentenced to 20 years for drug trafficking, is what I was told. In the beginning, we were told a totally different story. It was right before Mother's Day that I was expecting my daughter to come home, but instead of coming home, I called to find out that she was in prison, and couldn't figure out what was going on. Of course, for it being a Mother's Day, it was truly devastating for me to get that type of news. So it wasn't anything that I expected, and I'm like, in jail for what?
Yeah.
So it's just been really hard. So it's just been, I just doing everything in my power just to stay strong every day, doing what I can to fight for my daughter's freedom.
Yes.
I'm still, trying to make it every day.
Yeah.
Doing everything I can possibly do to get up and go to work every day, just to make sure that I'm keeping myself going. I just want everybody to know that, I'm going to fight for my daughter, regardless of whatever the situation is.
Yes.
I will never stop fighting for my daughter. And, I know a lot of it has to do with my daughter being gay. That's my child, regardless of whatever she is. She's first and foremost my baby.
Yes.
And I know that being that this is a religious country and they're so against it, I truly believe, and if I'm wrong, Lord, forgive me, that had maybe 89% to do of why she's still there. Because from the crime that they're stating that they committed doesn't fit the sentence that they were given.
Right, right.
And, I've done everything with getting in touch with our congressman and trying to find out what we can do, and haven't received anything. I've gotten more from the community, and because of my, because of us, getting it out there online, Facebook and everything, and just getting people aware of what's going on, I've gotten more from that than I've gotten from any assistance from anyone.
Yeah, and
and my daughter fought for her country. She fought for her country and fought to liberate Kuwait, and now we're trying to fight to liberate her from Kuwait.
Yeah.
So what is a mother to do?
I'm glad you're there, fighting for your daughter, and our, my heart and everyone here at WPFW, our heart goes out to you. I cannot imagine what you're going through, and I think that you're incredibly brave and strong, and I've been reading your words on Facebook, and I'm really glad that you took the time to call in, because I think it's important that people hear your voice and understand. This is real. This is, somebody's daughter, somebody's sister,
Exactly.
somebody's friend. For both Monique and Larissa.
Right. I'm there for both of them.
Yeah.
I speak with Larissa's mother, every, 2 to 3 days. Her and I are on the phone constantly talking and trying to come up with, strategies and things to do, but I'm working every day, all day, praying every day, all day. And I will continue to do that for both those girls, because I'm not only trying to get my child home, I'm trying to get both of them girls home.
Right, right.
So whatever I have to do, I will do.
And I, again, my heart and really goes out to you. I'm actually blown away, by your strength in this situation. And I want us to be able to help you. So tell folks who are listening what they can do to help you in this fight to free your daughter, Monique, and her girlfriend, Larissa. Larissa is also a veteran?
No, Larissa's not a veteran.
Okay.
She was a contractor.
Okay. But Monique is a veteran, who
is
fought,
a veteran, yes.
Right, who fought for this country and to help to liberate the people of Kuwait. And so I want people to know what they can do to help, because it's one thing for us to sit here and say, wow, that's really awful and that's a shame, but we need to do something. So what is it that you want us to do?
I want anybody and everybody to go out on the Facebook, go out and read the stories, sign the petition, try to get as much word as we can out there. I'm definitely trying to get in contact with someone at the White House. I've been trying to get in touch with all of the candidates that's running for president for this year. Anything that we can do. If you know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody,
yes,
get the word out there, please. I am begging you as a mother to get the word out there, because my daughter's coming home. One way or another, she's coming home.
Yes.
But I want anybody and everybody that is touched by anything that I'm saying right now to sign the petition, get it out there, post it on somebody else's Facebook, give them the opportunity to post it on theirs. I went out here to start this just to get 500 signatures, and no way did I ever thought that it would ever get over to 150,000.
Wow, wow.
So I am grateful. I am so grateful.
It's okay. Thank you.
I'm sorry, but I'm so grateful.
Don't apologize. Don't apologize. And I really appreciate you calling. I know this is not easy, and you're doing everything you can. And I know there are a lot of people who love and support you and your family, and Larissa as well. And we're going to do everything we can. So I hope those of you who are listening heard what Mrs. Jackson said. If you know someone who knows someone who knows someone, and we're in Washington, D.C. We know people. We all know somebody who knows somebody. And Mrs. Jackson, I'm going to continue to do what I can to get the word out there.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. We're going to post this. It's been posted on the Inside Out Facebook page, but folks, go to Free Monique and Larissa's page on Facebook, where you'll get more information up to date, where you'll get the petitions to sign, the GoFundMe accounts, and we're going to keep getting the word out there, and and keep praying also, and
Thank
that
you
Monique
so
and
much.
Larissa will be home soon.
Yes, I greatly appreciate that, Nicole. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay. And we'll keep in touch offline, okay?
Definitely. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Jackson.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So, folks, I hope that if you're just joining us, you're listening to Inside Out Radio on WPFW 89.3. We just had a very powerful call from Monique Coverson's mother, Mrs. Jackson, who's really working very hard. Sounds like she's putting everything, of course, backed by her love, into helping to free her daughter, Monique, and her friend Larissa, who have been imprisoned in a Kuwaiti prison for 20 and 25-year sentences for what, by all appearances, appears to be a trumped-up charge in order to punish the girls for their gay lifestyle. So please go online, support, sign the petition, get the word out there. And if you believe in the work that we're doing here at WPFW, Jazz and Justice Radio, also known affectionately as The Messenger, because we're trying to get the word out there, pick up the phone and call and make a pledge to support WPFW. The phone number to do that is 202-588-9739, 202-588-9739, or toll-free 800-222-9739. Or if you're somebody who likes to do things online, you can go online to wpfwfm.org and you can pledge online. You can also select what show you would like to support. Of course, I'm going to put in a plug for Inside Out because that's one of my favorite shows, obviously, here on WPFW. But they're all great. There's great music and action stations. By that I mean political action stations that are here. So please pick up the phone and call or go online and make your pledge. Before Mrs. Jackson called in, we were talking about the passing of Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia, who arguably was one of the most conservative judges on the bench. He was there for a very long time. He had been there since 1996 until his death just the other day. And he was a well-known blocker, non-supporter of LGBT issues. And we had been talking about some of his legal opinions that he had written in some very important landmark cases. But Judge Scalia's opinions did not just extend to his written dissents and support on the bench. It also extended to his speeches that he made. For example, at Princeton University in 2013, he told a student, "If we cannot have moral feelings against or objections to homosexuality, can we have it against anything?" I don't know what that student answered, but I would certainly answer yes. We can have moral objections to things that hurt people. We can have moral objections to war. We can have moral objections to greed. We can have moral objections to people who are going hungry, to people who are being falsely imprisoned, to people who are being brutalized by the police that have been sent to protect them. Unfortunately, there seems to be an endless list these days of immoral acts that are going on that we can have objections to. Two people having affection or love for each other, regardless of their gender, to me, really it does not even enter onto the scale of some of the injustices that people are dealing with and that are far more important and damaging than what two people other than yourself are doing. And he also spoke not just to university students, Antonin Scalia, he also spoke to high school students. And not too long ago in Louisiana, when speaking to a high school, he said there is no constitutional basis for separation of church and state. Okay. Except for the fact that this country was founded by a lot of folks who had been persecuted because of religion and who felt that it was important to have that separation of church and state. And Justice Scalia was very proud of adhering to the Constitution as it was first written, the way some people adhere to the Bible that was written however many thousands of years ago, and then interpreted and reinterpreted. He thought that the Constitution that was originally written by privileged white men only should be what we were still looking at, with absolutely no changes or amendments that maybe would have looked at affording more freedoms or dignity or rights to all people who are in this country. His death means that President Obama will have to nominate a new justice. Okay. Now, a lot of you who are listening probably already know that Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell contended that any nomination should wait until the next president is elected. He has said that they will not even vote on any nominees put forth by President Obama. And the Senate is in charge of confirming Supreme Court nominees. Mitch McConnell and other Republicans seem to feel that President Obama should just hang back and wait and let somebody else appoint the next Supreme Court justice, which of course would be very convenient for them because they're hoping that they won't have to contend with any Obama nominees who would probably who they would not support anyway. But this is my opinion. This is not the news. I think that involves a lot of audacity and arrogance and, frankly, just blatant disrespect to our president to suggest that he just not go ahead and nominate someone else. Scalia's funeral took place this past Sunday, and President Obama was not in attendance at his funeral. Joe Biden attended. And this created a lot of outrage, especially among, obviously, conservatives. But, pretty much everything Obama does is going to create outrage in that community, if you could say that. But also among Italian Americans who felt that it was disrespectful of President Obama to not acknowledge Antonin Scalia's Italian American heritage. If I were Italian American, I'm not sure that I would necessarily be proud of him, but that's obviously because I have different views. It's possible that President Obama will be able to nominate and put through another Supreme Court justice to sit on the highest court in the land. I came across an interesting story. Suppose our next Supreme Court justice, or SCOTUS as we affectionately like to refer to the justices, could be a bisexual person. Well, wouldn't that be interesting? The Supreme Court vacancy left by the death of arch-conservative Antonin Scalia has political observers speculating about who President Obama might put forth. And a few folks have said, wait, maybe we should look at putting somebody on the bench who is openly lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender. That would be pretty huge, I think. That would certainly be groundbreaking. And as the Republican leaders of the U.S. Senate vow to block any Obama nominee, perhaps the president would go ahead and push the boundaries. He might. I don't think that he would get any more traction in that direction. But, traction and ease does not seem to be what Barack Obama has been looking for. I don't think he would have run for the presidency if he was looking for ease and traction. He's had to contend with a very contentious situation since day one in office and has been quite successful in spite of that. So who knows? He might actually put forth somebody who is LGBT. And one of the names that people have floated out there among potential LGBT nominees, the name that comes up more than any other name is that of Pamela Karlan. Now, Pamela is Pamela Karlan, a professor at Stanford Law School. She's a former deputy assistant U.S. Attorney General and Roberta Kaplan's co-counsel in that landmark case that we talked about before in Windsor versus the United States, the Supreme Court case that brought down the Defense of Marriage Act in 2013. Later, during her government service, Karlan helped implement the decision. Also, as clerk for Supreme Court Justice Harry Blackmun in 1986, she wrote his dissent in Bowers versus Hardwick, in which Blackmun disagreed with the court's majority decision to uphold sodomy laws. So that's a name to be aware of, just to, part of what I'm doing today with this headline news is looking at stories that are not going to necessarily be the mainstream chatter that you're going to hear. So look for Pamela Karlan and see what you think about her being the next nominee for the Supreme Court. I do want to remind folks that we are taking calls. Mike, does that mean there's somebody on the line? Oh, my. Okay, I'm sorry. Rami, are you on the line?
I am here. How are you?
I'm well. I'm sorry. Were you holding a long time?
Oh, I've been holding since slavery.
Well, I apologize for that. I have to say I'm only responsible for this last few minutes of that. Did you have a comment or question that you wanted to share with us?
Sure. I have great news on the front end. Your apology is accepted.
Oh.
You made a comment a while ago that I found quite disturbing, but you're not the only one who makes it. It's done frequently. Mm-hmm. But I just wanted to say, I know you meant 1986. You said 96 about Scalia. But I know what you meant. Mm-hmm. But, Clarence Thomas worshipped Antonin Scalia. Mm-hmm. Now, black students have been graduating from Stanford, University of Chicago, Columbia, Georgetown, Yale, Harvard, Princeton, and so on with honors for decades. Mm-hmm. Now, Antonin Scalia made a speech about 3 or 4 weeks ago suggesting that black kids or black people in general lacked the intellectual wherewithal to attend the University of Texas.
Oh, wow. I wasn't aware of that. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, he said, it got better or worse. He said they should first go to community college.
And where was this speech made? So I'll be able to look it up later.
Remember where. It was in the last 60 days.
Okay.
But if you Googled it, I know it would pop up.
Okay.
But the thing that I found disturbing, the comment you made, and people frequently do it, they make the comparison between racial discrimination and discrimination against LGBT people.
Mm-hmm. And why is that disturbing to you?
It's not the same. I mean, they're vague comparisons, but the fact remains you have LGBT white people mm-hmm. who discriminate against black or Afro-Americans.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's very prevalent there. I mean, one group is just looked at from the distance through binoculars based on the color of their skin, and the answer is no right then and there. Mm-hmm. There's a double strike there. There's 2 counts against you if you're black.
Right. I would agree so far. Uh-huh.
So, I mean, it's what I call double jeopardy. Mm-hmm. And it's just, the comparison is just not fair.
And how do you feel that it's unfair? How is it unfair?
Well, the fact that it's like you've stood trial twice. I mean, you're LGBT, mm-hmm. that's being held against you. Mm-hmm. And just for whatever reason, if that litmus test does not apply, there's the ethnicity there. Mm-hmm. Now say you're white, you can clear that LGBT hurdle, and you're white, so you get front of the line treatment. You don't have to be bothered about allegations of quotas, et cetera.
Okay, so let me see if I understand what you're saying. So what you're saying is that it's an unfair comparison because the prejudice that you experience as an LGBT person can be somewhat overcome or lessened if you have white skin? Is that what you're saying?
It may not be lessened, but I mean, you don't have 2 hurdles to cross.
Well, you might not have those 2 hurdles to cross. I mean, I definitely understand your point, and I think it's true that the more stigmatized minorities that you belong to, the more oppression that you might face. To me, the reason why there's similar comparisons is just the idea of being oppressed, for whatever reason. And in this instance, I was talking about sexual orientation and race. But in some ways, I think they are similar because both things are immutable facts of your genetics and your birth. But there's so many other factors that come into play as well. One of the things we don't often talk about is socioeconomics. So, somebody could say, well, this person B is black and gay, but they also might have privilege because they were born into a well-off upper middle class family. So I think that it's important that we understand the differences between these different types of oppression, but we understand that at the root, oppression is oppression.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying totally. I mean, I would define that as being what I call equal protection, a violation of equal protection.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Okay, but when you have the fact that you have white LGBT people discriminating against other folks who may also be LGBT, and then, discriminating against them for no other reason than the color of their skin, I think that kind of negates the comparison.
Okay, I appreciate your opinion.
Okay.
Thank you for calling in.
All right, you take care.
Okay,
Bye.
Same to you. Bye-bye. Thank you for that call. And also one of our wonderful engineers, Mike 2, just helped to pull up an article that referred to what our last caller had talked about. He found it on CNN Politics, and it's entitled, Supreme Court Releases Audio of Justice Antonin Scalia Saying Maybe Black Students Don't Belong at Elite Universities. I'm not going to be able to play the audio now on air because I haven't vetted it, but this was on CNN Politics. So I will be putting this up on our page, which is Inside Out Radio, our Facebook page. And I'm going to ask one last time that if you enjoy the programming that you hear on WPFW, we are in the midst of a pledge drive, that you please pick up the phone. There are a few minutes left to do this. Pick up the phone and call 202-588-9739 or 1-800-222-9739. You can also listen and pledge online at www.wpfwfm.org. I'm going to be putting up the resources and some of the headlines that I discussed in today's show on our Facebook page, which is Inside Out Radio on Facebook. If you would like to get in touch with me, I have a Facebook page. It's Vision Quest Retreats with Dr. Nicole Cutts, also on Facebook, and that will take you to my website and other pages. I want to thank everyone for tuning in today to listen to Inside Out Radio here on WPFW. And I misspoke a moment ago. I said we had a few minutes left to pledge. That is a misspeak. You have many more minutes to pledge. There's just a few minutes left in our show. So whether you want to pledge for Inside Out or just for the station in general, hopefully if you're tuned in, you heard Jerry Paris earlier, our general manager, who talked about the work that we're doing here at WPFW and how we really need your support to do that. This is listener-supported radio, and that is something that means that we are free to bring you programming and give a voice to the voiceless the way radio stations who are supported by commercial entities are not able to. So I'm going to sign out, and I'm not going to sign out just yet. I got a signal. I see there's a caller on the line, but we don't have time for that caller. So caller, if you're listening, I'm sorry that we didn't get to you today. Perhaps you can send us a message on our Facebook page, which once again is Inside Out Radio on Facebook. And hopefully you can join us here next week on Inside Out. I do want to, right before I sign out, give a big thank you to Anthony from Woodbridge, who called in and pledged $100. Thank you so much, Anthony from Woodbridge. We really appreciate your support. And I hope other people follow your lead, but we really appreciate your support, Anthony, for calling in all the way from Woodbridge to show your support of $100 to WPFW. So you have done a good deed for the day, and may the sun shine upon you. So that's it for me this week. My name is Dr. Nicole Cutts. I'm one of the hosts of Inside Out Collective, and I want you to go out there, and there's not a whole lot of sunshine to find, but maybe you can find the sunshine in your heart. So go on out there and make it a great day.